As part of our Operation Recover All the Loot policy, Mr. Speaker, I've already tasked our investigative bodies to bring the culprits of the National Service ghost name scandal to justice. Such brazen theft of public funds must not go unpunished. It is estimated that the criminal addition of some more than 80,000 ghost names could have yielded the suspects over 50 million Ghana cedis every month. Unfortunately, some of these suspects are believed to have absconded from the country already. I have directed that they be declared wanted and their assets traced and frozen until investigations are completed. To achieve a legally robust regime to govern national service, I've also tasked the Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment to coordinate and present to Parliament a legislative instrument to support the implementation of the newly passed National Service Authority Act 2024.
So that's President John Dramani Mahama directing security agencies to declare persons alleged to be complicit in the National Service Scheme ghost name scandal wanted for fleeing the country as he commits to dealing with corruption in his first State of the Nation address to Parliament today. President Mahama did not mince words in describing Ghana's current economic state, which he says is in crisis. He, however, assured that the upcoming National Economic Dialogue scheduled for March 3 and 4, that's next week, Monday and Tuesday, along with the Finance Minister's budget presentation on March 11, will provide a detailed overview of the nation's economic challenges and outline possible solutions.
Mr. Speaker, 50 days ago, I took the solemn oath to assume leadership of this country and serve with truth and humility. This was preceded a month earlier by a watershed election that promised to revive our nation's fortunes and give us a new lease of life. The election result gave us an important opportunity to change course and move off the slippery slopes our country had been descending that had caused so much economic pain, suffering, and grief to our people. In their collective wisdom and with resounding clarity, the Ghanaian people chose to chart a new path to reset the country's economy. And through their votes, they made it clear that they will henceforth demand the highest standards of governance from those they put in positions of leadership. Mr. Speaker, as I stated earlier, Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution requires that I give an account of the state of our nation to Parliament. I'm sad to report that the state of our nation is not good. Our economy is in crisis and our people are suffering unprecedented hardships. Mr. Speaker, we will host a National Economic Dialogue on March 3rd and 4th. On March 11th, the Minister of Finance on my behalf will present the budget estimates for the financial year 2025 to this August House. These two events will allow us to present the real state of Ghana's economic crisis to the people. Mr. Speaker, it is not my style to lament and shift blame. My approach is to accept challenges and work hard to resolve them. Indeed, this is precisely what the people of Ghana elected me to do. I have therefore not come here to lament on the state of our country, though there's much to lament about. I understand why I was elected with such high voter confidence, and that is to solve Ghana's problems.
So that's President Mahama painting a picture of what the economy is. Well, he says that investors and those in the business sector should have confidence because his government is going to solve the problem. You and I might not really know what the status is. Yes, he says we might feel it in our pockets, but what is the real situation of the economy? Let the experts in that field tell us. Dr. Seram Kawo is a finance and accounting lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. He's also an economist. Doc, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time tonight on 505.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
I'm sure you might have listened to excerpts of President Mahama's State of the Nation address when he described our economy. He says it's not good, we are in crisis. Is that the true picture of Ghana's economy?
All right, thank you. I listened to the president from the beginning to the end today. The description by the president is just exactly what we witness as a country today.
Okay.
It is because of that we went to the IMF to have a bailout in terms of $3 billion from them. And so if the president is telling us that the state of the economy is bad, we only know it and we have to accept the state as it is. For some time now, the previous government told us that if they are not able to pass the e-levy, where they are planning to get about $11 billion, and if they are not able to get it, they cannot pay government workers and the rest. And that later, when there was a delay, it forces the government to go to the IMF for a bailout. Even when we are still with the IMF, we are borrowing extra amount of money. We are out of the international financial market, and so that the verdict is what we saw in the election. And so the president telling us that the country is poor and it is in a dire state, we cannot doubt. And personally, I agree with you.
But the reason we went to the IMF is for them to, as it were, help us manage our excessive spending or even borrowing. Now, he says that after we set inflation target of 18% by the end of 2024, the actual rate was 23.8%, significantly exceeding the IMF threshold. And he goes on to say that even the IMF program was not enough for the previous economic managers to exercise prudence in managing our finances. So if we missed all those targets, then what does it really mean for the economy going forward for this government?
All right, thank you very much. What it means is that if without the IMF, things would have been worse than what we are witnessing today. But for the early intervention of IMF, we are able to stand where we are. That is a daunting task for the current government to solve. I was expecting the president to talk about how they are going to manage the finances and raise the needed finances that they need in this very moment. But the president failed to give us that, but told us that they are going to have an economic forum on the 3rd and 4th of March. And when that is done, the finance minister would give us the details in the first budget that they have. We only have to wait for the budget on the 11th of March and see what they have and what they are putting under their sleeves, which they will finally bring out. And if you hear anybody on the economy, they will tell you that we should wait for their first budget before they come in.
So if you are waiting for a budget before we come in, they also talked about our buffers or reserves. He said the previous government left only $640,000 to pay. Now they were able to raise some money to pay those that they were supposed to pay. The government is yet to read their budget. The obvious question is, where did they get the money to do the payments?
All right, thank you very much. You know, government is a continuous thing. The previous governments have read some budget to us. There was an emergency budget that was also read to the country. I may not know exactly where they get the money from because they are not open on that particular target. But I believe that it was from the previous budget that we have. Of course, it is true that the previous governments did not operationalize the sinking fund account. And that is why we found ourselves in a situation that we cannot pay our debt. Hence, we have a domestic debt exchange and then the external debt exchange that we have as a country. If we had operationalized the sinking fund account, where monies go to the account and invested and they will earn interest on it, we wouldn't have gone to that particular stage. And so it's good that the president told us about that. I love the situation where he mentioned the policies in the agri sector that boost food security, will create employment, and that will go a long way to reduce food inflation that we have in the country. And that is something that we've been calling for a longer period of time. And coming at this time is a welcoming news for all of us.
We also await the details of how that's going to happen in the budget. But it's good you mentioned debt, because the president says in the next 4 years, debt servicing will amount to 280 billion cedis, comprising 150 billion for domestic and 130 billion in external debt servicing. And we know that this catastrophic debt position has also severely impacted infrastructure project, because instead of using the monies to put up infrastructure that would maybe raise some revenue for you, you're going to use that to service debt. How is it looking like for us with this hanging on our necks?
It is terrible. It's terrible to look at that amount of money when we are servicing debt. What it means is that we have borrowed at a very high interest rate, and that becomes a toll on our resources, and it will get us stagnant for a longer period of time. If for the next 4 years we are using over 200 billion to pay debt and service the interest rate on it, then it tells us that we have to find other ways of servicing our debt. We need to find other ways of raising money to finance the things that we are doing. That brings to mind the issue of public-private partnership to ensure that the private sector takes part in the financing of the debt. It also tells us that the debt is not the only way to go. We need to go to the area of equity, that is going to the stock market, where some of the state enterprises such as electricity company, Assests, and the rest should be listed on the stock exchange. Cocoa Board should be listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange, where people will be able to have ownership in the companies and management is done very well. And government will be able to raise the funds from the stock market in terms of equity, which does not require the payment of interest on the amount that have been raised, other than going for bonds on the market.
So in listing Cocoa Board, for instance, and even ECG, their debt 32.5 billion, which is 9.7 billion cedis due to be paid by the end of September 2025, and then you are looking at ECG 68 billion. When they are listed, are we going to be able to pay this debt and then they will get some money as well?
Yes, so the stock market in terms of shares will be able to do the valuation for all these things, and that will tell us how much exactly they would raise on the market. And they will need to tell the investors, including you and I, and the general Ghanaian population, how they are going to reduce the waste, the technical and commercial waste that they face, so that they'll be able to make some interest or some profit on the amounts that have been invested. And I'm very positive that when we get to the stock market, it's a market where we'll be able to raise the needed amount of money. Well,
so all in all, for you, is this a SONA that gives hope, like the majority leader said?
It's a state of the nation that gives hope to the Ghanaian investor, to the international community. Investor confidence will come in. It's a state of the nation address that gives hope to the youth and women, hoping that jobs will be created. The Women Development Bank will come on board, that will focus on female entrepreneurship and financing of women businesses around the world. And we are hoping that once these things the president has said are implemented, we can only say that we have a brighter future as a country.
Doc, very grateful for your time. I'm sure from Tuesday we'll also come back to this discussion when the economic dialogue has been held and the things that will come up ahead of the budget presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Dr. Seram Kawo is an accounting lecturer at UCC and also an economist. So he talked about the business community. And Samson Asake Awingo, executive